post-millennial. Kash Patel vows to swiftly pursue those who undermine the FBI after AG Pam Bondi reveals FBI NY withheld Epstein documents. So Kash has posted this statement. The FBI is entering a new era, one that will be defined by integrity, accountability, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. There will be no cover-ups, no missing documents, and no stone left unturned. And anyone from the prior or current bureau who undermines this will be swiftly pursued. If there are gaps, we will find them. If records have been hidden, we will uncover them. And we will bring everything we find to the DOJ to be fully assessed and transparently disseminated to the American people. It should be. The oath we take is to the Constitution, and under my leadership, that promise will be upheld without compromise. So for those just tuning in, the conversation we're having is the Southern District of New York and the FBI field office are being accused of intentionally covering up Epstein documents, hiding them from the AG who ordered them. Now, we don't know exactly what's going on, but on the surface, the story is Pam Bondi was contacted by a whistleblower who said the FBI office in New York is sitting on thousands of documents, audio and video, that they have not turned over to you. It's evidence. She then wrote a letter to Kash Patel, which seems very obvious was intended to be made public, saying, I demand that these documents be handed over to me and you assess what happened and why. The important context that we're getting into, the Southern District of New York has gone after Trump, gone after Trump's lawyers, and recently was going after Mayor Eric Adams. Amber just pointed out that you said you spoke with prosecutors?
Yes, DOJ officials who are trying to get the SDNY to drop the charges. This is, they're moving to have it dismissed without prejudice, which means that they could bring the charges again at a later date.
This is where everything gets crazy. The DOJ comes in under a newly elected Trump administration and says, Eric Adams, we want you to work with us, and if you agree to, we'll drop the charges for now. Eric Adams says, I will play ball. The DOJ then instructs the Southern District of New York, U.S. Attorney's Office, to drop the charges, and they refuse. Several of these individuals in the office begin resigning in protest. A lawsuit is filed, and a judge decides, this is insane, no, you can't drop the charges you're pursuing. What? Who's going to prosecute it? The judge is now saying a special prosecutor is coming in. I think it is patently obvious. New York, the federal offices are no longer federal. They are rogue and operating under some kind of who knows what. Maybe the Democratic Party machine. I don't know, but they're obviously working in tandem with the state government, who also filed false criminal charges against Donald Trump and even falsely convicted him of that.
And this is not abnormal because under the Biden administration, the Richmond field office of the FBI got in trouble because they sent out a memo to field agents telling them to infiltrate traditional Catholic churches and TLMs, traditional Latin masses, because the people who attend those masses might become, quote unquote, domestic terrorists. And actually, that memo did spread to other field offices as well. And when Chris Wray found out about it, he claimed that he didn't know anything about it. I don't know how true that is. But still, it's not abnormal for these offices to kind of do their own thing and then get a slap on the wrist from the FBI headquarters. And the other thing on the Eric Adams case that I would mention too is that one of the complicating factors with these charges, which is why he's not capable of working with the Trump admin right now on deportations, is he's not allowed to have a security clearance.
Wow.
So he cannot look at arrest records or anything related to law enforcement of illegal aliens in New York because he doesn't have the clearance to do it. So that's the primary reason why they want the charges dropped, is so he can get his security clearance back and start assisting ICE, DOJ, FBI.
They've gone rogue. New York, from the federal offices to the state offices, appear to be operating independent from the federal government. I mean, the state obviously does. We get that. But the FBI field office, if this is correct in what Pam Bondi is saying, and the stories we have about the Southern District of New York Attorney's Office and Eric Adams, the investigations they've launched against Trump, this has become a political body that is no longer operating under the jurisdiction of the federal government and the DOJ. They're going to have to raid the building. They're going to have to terminate all of these individuals immediately, and they're going to have trusted FBI agents actually secure the building to make sure evidence isn't being destroyed.
Yeah, I think that's probably the next step. And it's not a surprise that New York is this kind of corrupt field office either. The way that they behave, towards the administration, it's not a shock in any way. So
I know, Mary, you said you're in the nothing ever happens camp, but as much as I do kind of agree with that, This past month has been a whole lot of happenings. A lot.
What else?
We can start from the beginning. I mean, RFK Jr.
In my view, this is a not happening. This whole
this is a happening.
Is a not happening.
That's crazy.
The files weren't released.
Yeah, but the AG just said the FBI in New York has gone rogue. I mean, talk about a happening if happenings could ever happen.
If they get raided, that's a happening.
Sure. Okay.
I have a high threshold.
Let's start with RFK Jr. just suspended a $460 million contract to make a COVID-19 vaccine. I mean, that's a happening. There's a bunch of little things RFK Jr. is talking about with chemicals in food, and we can roll our eyes and say, sure, I'll see when it happens. But yeah, the suspension of the, what's the Vaxart or whatever the name of the company is, this $460 million contract was just temporarily frozen. So a little happening there. You've got, first of all, Kash Patel just got in. Pam Bondi just got in. A lot of this is in the first month. Trump just issued an order this morning. It wasn't Trump personally, but the Pentagon, terminating from the military every transgender person. That's a happening. There's a lot of stuff going on. Now, I suppose if you're saying happening in the physical world where like people are like, I don't know, launching rockets into space and like riding, those gigantic bikes, the big wheels on them down the street, and you're like, this is crazy. Maybe we're not seeing anything, but in the administrative functions of government, it has been so many happenings, I've lost count.
I mean, the transgender stuff with the actually, you can look at just the military, and there's been a lot of stuff. The fact that Pete Hegseth is the SecDef, that's a big deal.
When I see executive orders, I just see something that's going to change in 4 years if there's a new administration in office anyway.
So you think legislation is more compelling than executive orders, which I would agree with. But you think that
like a lot of his executive orders in the first 24, 48 hours were just reversing executive orders that Biden did to reverse the executive orders that Trump did.
Trump has, I think, how many executive orders has Trump signed already? I believe he's
close to 1,000 probably.
I believe it's more than Biden, Obama, and Bush did in their entirety or something like that. Like it's in the first I think Biden did like 3 or something or 6, some like small number in his first day. It shocked people, and Trump did 100 plus. Mm-hmm. Yeah, serious happenings. Have to wonder what happens next. I mean, look, if New York, let's start here. I always love the time travel test. Go back to 2018 and say, in 2025, the AG will release a letter saying that the FBI offices are withholding evidence of a mass pedophile ring involving high-profile billionaires and celebrities. People are going to be like, what? They'll say, yeah, the FBI is sitting on documents they won't release because they're trying to release them to the public, resulting in conspiracies that the FBI offices are gone rogue. Now, I do have to mention, the Southern District of New York office had previously tried to prosecute Donald Trump, prosecute his lawyers. They tried to impeach him. The state of New York, then, with many of this, with overlapping jurisdiction, accused Trump of a fake crime with no underlying crime. They upgraded a misdemeanor to a felony with no underlying crime, and then tried to put him in prison as he was running for office. I mean, the amount of things that have happened in the past year, if you went back 10 years and said this, people would laugh and say, are you writing a movie? And the funny thing is, whenever I do what I call the time travel test, it gets so much crazier. I mean, think about where we're at. 2 years ago, what if I said they're going to try the AG under Trump is going to try to release the Epstein documents, but the Southern District of New York and FBI office in New York are going to secretly cover up thousands of documents. People are going to be like, I don't know about that. Nothing ever happens.
I would have said that you were crazy if you told me that Trump was going to try to end birthright citizenship.
Oh, yeah, he did.
I mean, it's going to go to the Supreme Court, but that is a happening. I mean, there's a list, and forgive me, I'm doing the influencer thing now, but they did send a list out a week ago from the White House press office with a list of all of the actions taken in the first month of the administration. And it's a lot juicier than this Epstein binder, I will say. I mean, there's probably 100, 150 bullet points here. Granted, a lot of them are executive orders. But, I mean, we have border crossings at a record low.
Yeah.
Tons of cutting of waste, or at least pausing federal. I mean, we've paused all federal funding, especially foreign aid, which the foreign aid question was just held up by a court.
I'm sympathetic to Mary's view because I am of the opinion that legislation is what matters. Like you can talk a lot about the executive orders, but you do have a point about like if they're executive orders, they'll just get overturned by the next guy. But I do think that things like DOJ and cuts to the various bureaucracies, I think that does matter. I also think that the American people are generally behind that kind of stuff, and I think that matters too. If you actually make these cuts and then you don't see negative repercussions from the cuts happening to your average everyday person, I think that you'll end up getting the legislation to make the cuts permanent.
I want to issue a clarification because we got a super chat from Jared Williams. Says, Tim, you leaked the Bondi letter first on YouTube, which you claimed was from an unnamed source. Didn't you sense that something was off with a leaked AG letter? No, 3 p.m. was the embargo time, and my video went live at 3 p.m. However, other individuals published the letter before the embargo was lifted at around 2:33. I know because I immediately got in contact with a couple of my sources on the ground, and I said, looks like the letter's already been leaked. So I did not leak it first. And on Twitter, on X, when I posted it, it was about 2 minutes after it had already been released by other third parties. So yeah, I take journalistic integrity very seriously. That is, my sources, if they ask not to be named, I won't name them. If they give me information on background, it's called, I won't name them. If there are individuals, there are circumstances in which you break these. If there's an embargo, I won't break it. Why? You want individuals to trust you, and we want to get the information to the public. If I've got people who are working in the White House and I say, you can't trust me, I'll defy anything you tell me, they'll not tell me anything, and I can't tell you anything. So you agree to some terms to try and maximize the amount of information you get, knowing the individuals setting those terms are doing so for their benefit. But it is better that we compromise on the exchange of information so that I can bring it to you as opposed to just give them the middle finger and get nothing. That being said, were I or Amber, as we had been discussing earlier, if we had gone to one of these meetings, we would have been like, the moment the clock strikes, we're publishing everything.
Yeah, I would have had a Scribd account with all of the documents in it with a scheduled set time to go live at 3. 100%. And it would have gone right on the Daily Caller website. And maybe I would have had like an accompanying post with the top 10 things that are in the Epstein files for those who don't want to read all the documents. But I would absolutely make them all available. No question.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I think that I think my opinion still lands as this was a bad move. It should have been, the AG's whatever it was that they decided to do. It doesn't make anybody happy. It doesn't satisfy anyone, and it just makes for an unforced error. It's just,
I hear you.
I still feel like we're not going to see the unredacted files.
I don't disagree. Like the idea that they would ever publish a list of powerful billionaires and movie stars and musicians that were involved in a trafficking ring, and we're going to expose these power structures, it feels like you live. It's like communist utopian level nonsense.
And I feel the same way about the JFK, RFK, and MLK documents. Like people who were getting all excited about that, I'm saying if you really think the CIA was involved in the assassination of these individuals, which by the way I agree with you, do we really think that they wouldn't have scrubbed the evidence of that like 30 years ago, and we're now 60 plus years on, and suddenly it's all going to come out and they're going to indict themselves?
Yeah.
There are other questions that still remain unanswered about more recent events. Like I'm waiting for the Stephen Paddock files.
Yeah.
Yep. Even after all these years, I'm still waiting on answering questions about that. Biggest mass shooting in U.S. history. And most people, if you mentioned it to them, would be like, I don't even know if I remember that. Like, it was completely memory hold.
And that probably also indicts the intelligence community in a number of ways.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.